On this 339th episode of the Cultra Trail Running Podcast, we've got a man who doesn't just run and ski the whites, he simply loves them with everything he's got. Andrew Drummond is a ski mountaineer, ultrarunner, business owner, event organizer, and serves as a central character in the White Mountain trail running community in New Hampshire. He set the fastest known time on the Direttissima as he knocked out all 48 New Hampshire 4,000 footers in under 5 days. He also summited Mount Washington 100 days in a row during a record rainfall year. He owns and operates the White Mountain Ski Company, Ski the Whites, Run the Whites, in Jackson, New Hampshire. Andrew recently held the inaugural White Mountain 100 event and is race director for several running events, including Bubba's Backyard. For those of you who read Scott Jurek's book North, we talk about the 100 miles that he ran with Scott, and we almost figure out how he got the name Special Forces. We also take a really deep dive into ski mountaineering, what it was like to ski down the knife edge at Katahdin, and how he skied a presidential traverse. As our conversation with Andrew unfolds, what emerges isn't just a tale of mountains or miles, but a love story of place, of lifestyle, of belonging. It's about finding connection, losing it, and carrying that emptiness until the trail brings you back to what makes you whole.
From the belly of the Beast Coast, Glastonbury, Connecticut, this is the Cultra Trail Running Podcast. We talk about all the fun shit that happens on the trails that most normal people don't care about. The language we use is f***ing explicit and raw like the trails we run on, so don't listen with your kids! No kids. Cultra is brought to you by our Patreons and supporters, and we are 112% listener supported, and support is good.
All right. Well, welcome everybody to the Cultra Trail Running Podcast. I'm your host, Art Byram, and I have back tonight, I have two of our White Mountain specialists, my local team who just went out to the White Mountains. I have Josh Guillotine. I've decided that's your new last name, Josh, is Guillotine.
Nice. I like
Welcome, Josh. And Josh, I want to say congratulations. You just got your 48th as well. So
yeah.
Well done.
Andrew did it when he was 15, and it took me until I was 55. But,
that's right. And I'm 61 and a little bit more than halfway there. So,
yeah,
or more than that. So, and also Anna G is joining.
Hi, everybody. Thank you.
Glad to have you back, Anna. As I mentioned in the beginning, our special guest is Andrew Drummond. So welcome, Andrew.
Hey, thanks, guys. Appreciate the time to talk to me.
Yeah, well, it's a pleasure. Certainly we've all seen your name out there in the trail running, in the trail running world, and especially when it comes to the White Mountains. So I think as we were preparing, for the episode, because this was like, I'll be honest with you. It was a bit like I wanted to make sure that I didn't get like blindsided. Like, oh yeah, Art, I was the, I won the Olympics. I got a gold medal, and you didn't know that. So, I started to look around and a little bit more than what I had, originally saw, and then as we were going through this, I was thinking at first, like, oh, maybe I can just like on-site this in, this show, or maybe I'll treat it like a project and then kind of like figure out the perfect route. And it's honestly, it's kind of like trying to figure out the Direttissima. It's just like it's not something that's easy to figure out. And so I think what I'd rather do is I'd kind of like to turn it to you a little bit. I mean, we're certainly aware of a lot of the really cool things you've been doing as far as like running and community and, but more than that, what's that?
Skiing as well.
Yes. Skiing and surfing. And I don't even know what else, handball and rhythmic gymnastics probably, and other things. So I'd really like to kind of turn it to you and kind of ask you if there's something right now that you're really in touch with in the running world that is like something that's like in your, in the forefront of your mind right now that you might want to talk about tonight.
I mean, man, I don't know. It's like a long journey to get where I'm at right now. And I think we can all relate to how we get into the sport and what incremental choices we make and decisions that lead us along different paths. And so in many ways, mine is no different than yours. And and the rest of you guys. But I think with running, I've always just been, I've never really appreciated it growing up. It was a hard sport, but a necessity, and all the other group sports I did, I kind of bucked the trend. My family growing up, I had brothers that were excellent runners, and they did cross country, and were gifted in that sense. And I just never felt like I was built like a runner. And I did football, I did basketball, I did baseball, and along all of that, I skied too, because that's what my brothers did, or that's what my family and friends did. So I got sucked into all these sports, but I always gravitated towards the team sports that don't necessarily reward running. And then it took until at least college, until I started running for fitness. And then that just kind of stuck with me, like a 3 to 5 mile run as just something to have some sort of semblance of fitness. And in high school, prepping for ski season, you would run a little bit, but nothing. You wouldn't do any like Nordic style running, like over distance. And so I never really thought much of it until I had a friend in maybe 2012 who's built. He's big. He's like 200 pounds, and his mom's a marathoner. She's done the Boston Marathon like 30 years in a row. And
wow.
But this guy is big. His name's Pete Waken, and he's 200 and probably at the time 210, 215 pounds, but just all muscle. And watching him start chopping down his times, and he would keep sending me results. And I was living in San Diego at the time, and he sent me blogs too from some of the local runners here, Kevin Tilton, who's infamous with the White Mountains and trail running. And then another guy, Jim Johnson, who did all the mountain running races here. And he would send their blogs, whether it was a snowshoe race or a road race, but they're recaps. And I was really fascinated reading about running. And that whole trajectory was just following along. And then I started reading books on ultra running. And then I just somehow I was like, well, I'm doing all this like fitness running. I might as well just throw my hat in the ring and jump in a 10K. And that was maybe like 2009. I don't even know. Yeah. I don't even know how old I was. I was in my early 30s. And so I started training for a 10K. And I think that's where I rediscovered running. I mean, I like, again, and growing up here in the Mount Washington Valley, I would do some of the local races, but they were just totally fun runs and no expectations, just doing them because my parents brought me to them. So 30, when I was in my early 30s, I did this race called the Saunders 10K. And it was it's held on Thursday night. It's like a 6 p.m. race down in the seacoast area of New Hampshire. And man, I got my clock cleaned. We had my friend Pete that got me into this. We had this goal of going sub 40 minutes, and I went out just like a total kook, ran sub 6 the first mile, and we're supposed to be running like 6:30 pace. And then I ran 6:10, and then instant blow up. And
it was a good 5K, right?
Maybe not even that great. I ended up just miserable, and it left a bad taste in my mouth, the racing aspect of it. And it was just, I didn't know how to pace correctly, and I paid the price. And so it was a long hiatus from that 2009 race until I really got the itch in 2014 after watching my girlfriend do a race here that's no longer exists, but it was you'd run a 10K. It's called the Wild Man Biathlon or something. You'd run a 10K and then you'd bike up to Wildcat Ski Area and then run up the ski area. And supporting her, watching her race, I was like, why am I not racing? And so I kind of rediscovered racing. And this time I went in with a little more education and training, and the rest is sort of history. Like once I saw some people in that event, I was like, I'm training. I'm in the mountains now. Why don't I just give this a shot? And then, so I was just like a total age grouper doing anything and everything I could. So I jumped in triathlon, I jumped in the snowshoe races, I did some Nordic skiing, alpine racing. So had all this time and was trying to figure out what I wanted to do, both as like a career and as like an athlete. And so I sort of just had a blank slate. And what do you do? And you kind of have this self-discovery where you try a bunch of things and you see improvement, and then you slowly whittle down what interests you. And that took several years, but it was ultimately like trail running and spending time in the mountains, was always at the forefront of that, whether it was skiing or running. And the racing kind of like faded away a little bit, is like the importance of results. And it was just like, yeah, do the things you want to do. You know, if you have the itch to do this ultra, do this ultra. If you want to go to a local 5K, do the 5K. But it's been this neat journey that led me to where I'm at now.
Wow. Wow. That's a lot. That's a great, kind of sets the table of where you started and everything. So, as far as how many, brothers and, how many siblings, brothers and sisters did you have?
Yeah, it was kind of like two sets. So my oldest brother, he's like 11 years older than me, and my sister's like, 10 or 11 years older than me. So they're kind of a set. And then my other brother, he's a couple years older than me. And I felt like out of touch with the oldest two, but then my brother was a couple years older than me, but like he was always into rock climbing, cross country, other sports that I wasn't really, our common bond was skiing, but we were definitely felt very distant in the sport.
You never took to rock climbing at all?
No, I was stuck. I would do the indoor gym training we used to have a climbing wall at Mount Craigmore here.
Yeah.
And my brothers were out climbing on real rock, and they never invited me.
Okay.
That's probably just too annoying.
To this day, that's not something that you're into that much. Is that right?
Well, it comes in that territory. When I moved back here, I bought a harness and I bought climbing shoes because it was like, what am I going to really want to do around here? And I just got impatient. And I think rock climbing, it takes a little bit of patience, and only one person's going to generally be climbing at a time. And I just rather be moving constantly.
Yeah. You don't want to be on the belay, right?
No, I don't. I mean, I do have this appreciation for it, and I have this comfort level rock climbing because I did grow up doing a little bit of that. But no, it's just there's times like my brother's come back, visited, and we have gone out and done some climbing, but it's I don't know. It doesn't really move the needle for me.
Yeah, and the thing is that ultimately you can't do everything, right?
Right, and if you do, it's like it's tough. It's tough to like show up to a wall and not have trained and like try to be climbing like an easy 5/8 route, and you just like can barely make it off the first move. So I feel that way about surfing because I used to surf a ton, and it's like I could go drive to the coast a couple hours, but I don't want to go out there and paddle and have my shoulders fall off and not be able to have the coordination, the muscle memory to get up. And that stuff takes a while. You have to really be in a routine to get the most out of it. And it's the same as like, I don't want to go to a 5K not trained up a little bit. I need to be a little sharp. And so it's hard to do all that stuff and be sharp.
Gotcha. So you did a bit of surfing, or a lot of surfing, or how much of a,
I dedicated probably 10 years of my life chasing waves around the world. I mean, I surfed everywhere: Hawaii, Peru, Vietnam, India,
Puerto Rico. Went to
no, because I was living out west.
Okay.
I was living in San Diego, so Baja. I lived in Baja for quite a bit too, and so I traveled down to southern Baja and the whole coastline, and it's just like that sense of exploration was wildly fun, and it's so much. There was so much involvement with running too, because when the waves were flat, I would just go out running, and that's sort of like this parallel of like that 2011, 2012, reading all the running books, and at the same time, you're like, oh, this is a perfect way to stay busy when there's no surf and stay fit.
Gotcha. So what was the book that got you into or the ultra, you mentioned ultra running books?
Yeah, I mean, I read them all. I mean, I Born to Run and Dean Karnazes's book and Scott Jurek's book, and I was reading all that stuff and just so fascinated and reading like the race reports too. So reading race reports on the big races like Leadville and Western States and Hard Rock, and just trying to get a grasp on what are these people doing? How is it possible that they're doing this stuff? And I trap myself sometimes into being like, oh yeah, I read someone's race report. I could do that. 100 miles. I mean, they did it. Like I could probably do that. And then you go out and you run for like over an hour and your knees are killing you.
Yeah. It is interesting though, because I think that the people that we associate definitely change our expectations of ourselves and help each of us define what's possible sometimes, or it certainly can influence it. Like, I know that, like, if you train with somebody and all of a sudden they lay down a time, you're like, well, if they can do it, I know I'm faster than them. Or I think, like, if they can do it, I should be able to get, I should be able to
Exactly.
get closer.
We're all influenced by what we read and who we see. And I don't, I never would have thought of running 100 miles ever.
Yeah, who would,
Like
right?
that would not have been my idea, and I never would have sought out to do it. But
Yeah.
since someone did it, we got to go do it.
Yeah.
Yes.
You
Yeah.
What-
What was your first? Oh, go ahead, Josh.
know. Andrew, you were living out in the West Coast and spending a lot of your energy on surfing, and then something brought you back east, or you like got a little surfing sort of lost its luster. Was it crowded peaks or for surfing? What happened for you there?
It was basically a ticking clock where I knew I was gonna move back east. I found the West Coast. I didn't have roots there. I didn't feel that connection quite with like the population. And I made friends there, but most of my friends there were transplants from the East Coast. And my partner Hillary, she's from Vermont and New Hampshire area. So it was just one of those things where like we'd come back and visit, we would hike, we would ski. And it just seemed like, yeah, let's move back to the East Coast at some point, and we can either move to the seacoast or somewhere in Maine, or we can move to the mountains. And ultimately it was like Hillary, she found a job as a PT in Conway where I grew up, and it made it like a no-brainer. So when she found that job, because she was in school during the time, like we started dating in 2009. And so she was in school at that time, PT school. And then she had some clinical rotations out there. And then eventually she's like, well, now it's time for a job. And so when she was looking around at jobs, it was sort of in her court where she was interested, but I helped plant this seed through a mutual friend who had a contact at one of the physical therapy clinics here in Conway, and she got the job. So it was just very easy transition to make that move, because in San Diego, you're right. Like, I was getting frustrated with the crowds, the traffic. That's part of why I had spent so much time in Baja, because you could find your own surf without being too crazy, congested. And I knew that I'm an okay surfer. And I knew that, like, while I love the sport and it's one of the most, I don't know, and definitely one of the most enjoyable sports I've ever done. And it was fun to start from scratch and be a noob at something. And I felt like I made a lot of progress, and I got adequate where I could go travel the world and pick waves and learn how to forecast. And I was never that great, but I was confident to go out, and I like the water and I love swimming. And so it's as a sport itself, where you just go to beautiful locations around the world and find waves and meet people. And it's an incredible way to live. And so I spent a lot of my free time just like, it felt like going on vacation on these surf trips when I wasn't working. And I think I grew up skiing. And so skiing was always just taken for granted a little bit. And skiing got really stale, and I got really bored of it because I was just skiing at the resorts here back east. And I didn't do that winter mountain town trip that also could have changed my trajectory substantially. But I discovered backcountry skiing while I was in San Diego, because my brother was in Alaska. So my brother Dana, who's a couple years older than me, had moved to Alaska and Anchorage. And so when I visited him, it was like this perfect, combination of endurance from all the running I've been doing meets like the skiing aspect. And so backcountry skiing allows you to use your engine to access skiable terrain and have these wildly fun experiences that I had no idea existed until that trip with him. And so then I would have these ideas when I came back and visited my family back in New Hampshire, like how do I apply these skills I learned with my brother in Alaska to where I grew up? And what does the backcountry skiing look like here? And that was really the mindset I had, was like, all right, I'm super excited to move back, because now I have this completely fresh perspective, this new skill set, and especially the White Mountains where I grew up. I I had lost touch with them, and I felt that I didn't really know them as well as I thought I did. Because growing up, you got people driving you as a kid to the trailhead. You're not making decisions. You don't even know which trails you took up half the summits you did. It was just, you were just following the leader. And so now to make all those decisions yourself and like I said, rediscover your home mountains, it was very refreshing and enabled me to like give up surfing, which is really hard to do, but the trade-off, yeah, there's a reason why so many people love to travel up here and hike and ski in the mountains. So yeah, it was like exciting to start something new.
Wow. So it seems like, I mean, my own personal, like, here's my hot take on the whites, like, because I just find them like as somebody who's just trying to come in and understand what the hell is going on there. It's incredibly complex, which makes it very interesting because in no way is it ever, at least to my take, it's never boring. I mean, because there's so much to it and there's so many different ways to connect everything because it's not like a linear system where, oh, this is north and this is south and you just kind of work your way right up. It's like, you can make gross errors and find out, oh, I'm actually 45 minutes or an hour drive from the place that is just on the other side of this mountain. Like I'm like 3 miles from there, but I have to drive like all over I have to drive way over to find my way back. So it's really an interesting place. And do you ever find yourself, you don't ever get bored there, or do you get bored ever?
No, I don't think so. No, I that's what I love about the peak bagging culture is that it's a rotating, it's a moving target. So you might get bored of one region, but you just go and revisit like the Sandwich Range or somewhere I haven't been in a while, and you maybe pick a new trail or something. So there's, and then if it's in a different season, it just doesn't get boring in that sense. Is that the even if you revisit a trail, the seasons change or the
Yes.
weather changes or something, and you might hike with someone different and see it through their eyes, or link up something and I don't know. There's routes that I did when I maybe 8 years ago that I haven't revisited, but I should, and I'd be excited to go do it. So yeah, there's so many different combinations and different types of trail that you get stuck in your bubble. Like I am at the foot of Mount Washington. It is very easy to access and I love it. And even Mount Washington, doing it so many times, like rarely gets old. There's some days, yes, I'm tired and I'm on the Tuckerman Ravine Trail, which I've done hundreds of times. And I might be like, okay, I'm a little over this. And there are those moments, but generally it has to do with like your physical condition. Like if you're tired or if you're just beat up, then nothing's going to be fun.
Gotcha. Yeah, because it does seem like there's a lot of different ways to split it. I just noticed, just looking at I watched a video you put out on skiing the Presi, the presidential traverse, and I was like, oh, that sounds interesting, and like didn't really. I guess like I've heard of like skiing like in the mountains like that, but then like to actually see the shit was like it just was a whole different take. Like, oh my god, how do you know that that's the right way to go? Like you could be going down to like a if you just like don't know where you are or whatever, I don't quite understand. I'm sure there's like you obviously know what you're doing and stuff like that, but it was just, I found it just fascinating to know a place that well that you could, find yourself going down this barrel or going down this chute and with big rocks on either side and icy trails and, I suppose the potential for avalanche or whatever, so, tell me maybe about that, like that confidence or how do you get to that point of competency to be able to, to even approach that, to go out 14 hours on skis in the in the mountains.
Well, I think that's a healthy regard to have for the mountains and in general, and something that sometimes like the complacency gets you in trouble around here is that if you've done a run so many times that you just kind of let your guard down, and that certainly will get you into trouble. But being a local, having your finger on the pulse of the snow conditions is absolutely important. It changes so fast here. What I'm really proud of that effort on the presidential traverse. I mean, I can't tell you how many times people had come into the shop or just chatted up this idea of skiing across the presidentials, because people run it all the time, but would you do it on skis? And it just sounded so contrived to me that you're defeating the purpose of being on skis. It's like, you're going to do it faster running. Like, what's the point of even being on skis? And it wasn't until, a day or two before I went, I was like, well, wait a minute, there's all this skiing that can be done and you could ski off every peak. And now it's not a novelty. Now it's just good skiing, but you need the right conditions to do it. And this was in late March, a couple winters ago. And so it's like, all right, well, if I get up on Madison on sunrise and I think I have time to like do this route justice where I can find the best skiing across the range. And so there's been a snowfield on Mount Madison that you see when you drive over Pinkham Notch on Route 16, that this eastern snowfield that I had to go, that was kind of the biggest gamble, is like, all right, is this going to be worth it? And then and the conditions were a little tough because it was cold and windy to start the day. And I wasn't sure if it was just going to be the day to be above tree line, but I started out doing this maybe 500 to 700 foot run on this snowfield, and with the sunrise coming up over the Wildcat Range. And it was incredible. I mean, at that moment, to ski something that I had never skied and to sort of validate what I was about to do, I skied back over, and it was a combination of skinning where you have like the climbing aids on underfoot on your skis, so that enables you to keep the skis on and basically Nordic ski. But you can also get these ski crampons that slide in under your toe binding that act like crampons for your skis, and that gives you traction too, so you can move efficiently without having to put your skis on your pack. And maybe if you were going up a hiking trail, putting your skis in your pack, you're going to hit every tree on the way, but keeping your skis on is going to be more efficient. But if it's really steep, your skins are going to slip. So these ski crampons are really effective, and they can help on all the summits that are windblown and slippery too, because then you again can still keep your skis on. But as you guys might know, is that the presidentials are usually just wind scoured rock and rime. Yes. And so it takes the right conditions to get the presidential range in this skiable condition, where it is this puzzle of efficiency of when is it worth taking the skis off, when is it worth putting the skis on the back. And so that part is very engaging because you're in and out of your skis a lot, trying to navigate and move quickly. But what was interesting was that I thought some lines and some snowfields would be great, and they weren't. And then other things I thought were going to be bad, I found to be excellent. And it just goes to show you that, like, even someone like me that lives up here can have no idea how conditions are going to be in these remote locations, especially the northern presidentials, because you're not going to get recent data on someone skiing these lines, because they get skied. I was probably for sure the only person to ski off Madison ever, like in the winter. I don't think anyone seeks that out, but like places like Castle Ravine are north facing and tend to be really icy. And I found some decent skiing there. And then other places like Jefferson Ravine, where you can ski almost right off the summit of Jefferson down into, it's called Stealth Gully, that drops you in. That line was kind of garbage. And so it was sort of like things were flipped a little bit to what I was expecting to ski was not that great. And the things I wasn't expecting to ski was excellent. And so I don't know, it's just one of those days where everything clicks and you forget about the effort, and the skiing kind of stole the show. And I had some of the best turns of the winter that time. And it's hard to imagine getting those windows to do stuff like that again, or just having everything line up. So it feels so special to have that winter connection on a route that has so much history behind it, but to do it in a way that sort of really showcases what the backcountry skiing in New England is like.
Yeah.
If I could ask a question, last March you did a route through the Presis. Did you do sort of like a half Presi from Washington?
I did a hut traverse. And so it was just a way to link up the heated huts that I thought had skiable terrain. So that was from Grey Knob Cabin to Harvard Cabin to Zealand Hut. So it was on skis and trying to find good skiing along the way. And what was interesting on that trip was that just the spatial variation between the skiing in the Northern Presidentials versus what you found over in Tuckerman Ravine. And it was like the skiing just slowly got better and better and better as you traversed over to Mount Washington. It went from like wind scoured with like, we had this warm up event and then we had a little bit of new snow and some wind. And so that wind formed these wind slabs, you call them. So it's like snow bonded on old crust, and that stuff can give away. And I triggered like a small avalanche in King Ravine that started the day. And I was like, well, this is off to a bad start. And so the whole goal of that trip was just to go from point A to point B, honestly, but hopefully find some good skiing along the way. And then there's almost too much snow in other areas, like in the Great Gulf. There's a line between the two clays, or more in the northern, it's on the southern clay, called Pipeline. And there was too much snow where I was like, this is a hazard, this definitely, if this slides, you're in trouble. And so we just moved over to Tuckerman Ravine, where there was a avalanche that day, and you could see the crown line. Like, it already slid, so I was able to ski over it safely, but it was like, this is crazy. I don't know. And so that experience was really fun because I was able to connect this whole region that I've spent a lot of time in, but to do it in a few days and invite some friends along.
Did you stay at the huts? Or
yes.
Was it
So I stayed at Grey Knob, and then the next night I stayed at Harvard, and then I did not stay in Zealand because there was a whole high school group from Hanover, New Hampshire that filled up every bunk. So, and the skiing over in Zealand at that point was pretty rotted out. So again, it shows you just the variation throughout the whites is like, there's a reason why Tuckerman Ravine is so popular, is because it is catching snow from everywhere via the wind. And places like Zealand Notch are just like, it's just dependent on natural snow and no wind, and the sun gets in there too and affects everything. So I ended up taking Zealand as like a fun ski tour, just like getting there and going up. There's a place called Whitewall, and it's there's like a big birch glade up there, miles long. And so you just like tore up this slow, low angle gradient. And then when you come back down, I wanted to ski down. There's a line that goes straight down into Zealand Notch that you can see from, if you've ever hiked Zealand, there's Z Cliff, and it looks directly at it. And so there's like a little line there, but it's like rarely in, and it's kind of a novelty. But being in the mountains and finding your favorite little nooks where you're just like out in the middle of nowhere and touring around, that like you get that wilderness experience because it's wintertime, and especially wintertime, people aren't in these areas.
I was just going to ask you the answer might be no, but like, how is your experience in the winter different from your experience other times of year? I mean, if you had to pick one, could you pick one that you would rather be in the White Mountains in, or is that just a silly question,
I mean, it's not silly. I mean, I love both. I mean, I love skiing more. I mean, I'd rather ski. I'd rather hike up and ski down. That's a no-brainer, but I do still really enjoy running in the summer months. And I love the seasonality of the White Mountains because, like you said, they offer so much variation on the same trails. They such a different experience. I remember hiking with that friend that got me into running on Owl's Head, and just like Owl's Head in the wintertime is like bizarre because you're like, wait, I can see Mount Washington from here, and everyone thinks of Owl's Head with like no views. And I was like, wait, I can see Washington. And the winter hiking is less technical most of the time if the trail's broken out. But it's for me, it's like an ineffective use of my time. Like, I want to be skiing. I want to be skiing down all this stuff. I want to be finding some remote mountain lines, and I don't want to be like, burdened to the hiking down if I don't need to be.
Gotcha. Wow. Yeah, I know that I think Owl's Head and Isolation catch a lot of flack, right? From the hiking community, I think, for whatever reason.
They're usually the last to pick off. I mean, them and like the Cabot Wombec, but I don't know. the more time you spend in the mountains around here, the smaller it feels. And it's like, oh, isolation is just there and Owl's Head's there. Like trail running offers a completely different perspective because, you know, people are running Owl's Head out and back in like 3 hours, which, you know, as a kid, that was an all day, that was a huge trip. That was a massive undertaking. But now with people with like better gear and a little bit of a endurance engine, everything is like reachable. And the same with skiing. It's like you can get anywhere in a day and go ski the most remote regions because the gear is so good and people are stronger.
Interesting.
When you came back to New Hampshire, and you led Scott Jurek through the Whites, how did that connection happen with Scott? And was that your first? Did you take him all the way through all the 100 miles of the White Mountains on that?
Yeah. I mean, that story.
Sorry, you may have answered that before, but I
No,
don't.
but it's kind of insane because here I am like dabbling, getting into ultras mostly because I read about him, you know. I think everyone's kind of learned.
It's a bit ironic, right?
His history. And then like I don't know. I was spending so much time those first couple of years back in the mountains that I became the guy. Like Andrew's the guy in the mountains.
Yeah.
That's what kind of like probably what I got known for because I was sharing a bunch of media and photos because I was more interested obviously in the backcountry skiing aspect, but through the climbing community, which is pretty tight here, it's Mount Washington Valley is really known for excellent like high level climbers and alpinists. So through that connection, which is through my brother, who is big in the climbing world out here. And so his friend knew Timmy O'Neill, who was helping Scott Jurek because they have their connection. And Timmy O'Neill is like this, I mean, jack of all trades, but he is a phenomenal climber. And anyway, so he's friends with Scott Jurek. And I think the climbing might have been Scott's wife, Jenny. And that's how maybe they got connected. I don't know their origin story. Anyway, so I got a phone call from him, a voicemail saying, "Hey, this was to let you like even further backstory was like that Scott Jurek was coming through the White Mountains was like kind of nothing I wanted to be part of because it just seemed like a circus. And I'm like,
it was a circus leading up to the White Mountains, right? I mean,
well, I'm like, give this guy his space. Like, what am I
Yeah.
going to do? I'm just going to get in the way. And so I felt like, hey, if you know, it'd be cool to see him. I'm not sure what I would have done otherwise, but when Timmy O'Neill left a voicemail and he reached out to, I know he reached out to a climber friend in town who put him in touch with me. And so when I got that voicemail, I was like, no way. And it was just such opportune timing where I didn't have much going on in my life. And this was like a dream to like go out. And so when I started was from Glen Cliff in Moosilauke. And I was like, yeah, I'm going to join this. I'm going to join this guy. I have no idea what I need to do or what I need to bring, but I'm just going to go along for the ride. And so once I started, it was like, all right, I'm in this. I'm going to keep going, I guess. So I wasn't locked in for the whole 100, but I did end up going all the way to Rattle River Trailhead with them. And it was just like, yeah, it was one of those life-changing pivotal moments that kind of, you know, definitely fast-tracked what I was going to be doing for the next several years.
Yeah.
Very good. So the name Special Forces, how did that come about? And was that is that an actual thing, or is that something that kind of found its way into the book, or what's the deal with that?
A little of both. I mean, I think they were looking to hype up the book or like, you know, I don't think they ever called me Special Forces on the trail, but I think maybe Timmy O'Neill was brainstorming because I just seemed to show up and like I would carry whatever they needed me to mule, I would carry it. So if he needed a sleep kit or something, I was just like, throw this on my pack and I'll carry it. I mean, to be fair, Scott like was beat up and rough and he wasn't he was not in classic Scott Jurek form. He was just like getting along, but he was still incredibly talkative and fun to be around. And especially Timmy too. Timmy's such a character. And then all the friends that came along that they brought in and out, I got to meet. So, and then I showed up again, because after they left New Hampshire, I was like, man, this is kind of sad. I felt like the kid in college or high school and everyone has left for summer and I was just stuck there. And it was kind of depressing because you felt like you had this purpose and then you're like, all right, that's over. But then I don't know, it was like the 4th of July weekend that we had off, and Hillary had never been to Katahdin. So I was like, let's go. We should go visit and surprise him. And so we
Yeah.
did. We went to Katahdin. We like ran a loop in Katahdin. Then we like went to Abal Bridge, and then we're like waiting for him. And they're like, oh, let's go find him.
Hmm.
And I ended up meeting with another friend of his that just happened to be in town. And we ran in 7 miles, found him, and he was with the Gaylord. He was with like the Gaylords, Topher Gaylord and Kim Gaylord, or who else? Chrissy Mel. And it was like, wow, this is incredible. Like, so I reconnected with him, but he didn't even recognize me. He was so toast. And
Like after, because you ran, I mean, that the first day, I think you ran like over 24 hours with him, right?
yeah, we were like
then
together
and then
the
it
whole
was like
time.
a couple days, you know?
Yeah, but like, this guy's full zombie mode, and
Oh yeah, yeah.
I was like, whatever. And then like he once he realized it in like, I don't know, 20 minutes into the hike, he was like lost his mind. And so anyways, he like, it was so special. He invited me to like be with him on that next section to go up Katahdin and anyway, to help to celebrate because he just got the record. And
Yes.
anyways, incredibly special moment. He's a very humble but real guy. Like I just want to reiterate that he'll text me on my birthday or like congratulate me on things that like you're like, I don't know. It's so easy this day and age to like let things slip, but he's incredibly like such a real person, and he's got like a little bit of an edge to him. He's a critic. He's critical about things, and I appreciate that so much. And even though he was beat up, like it was still really fun to be around. Sometimes it's like a slog and like not that fun to be crewing people or pacing people when they're in that state. But I mean, I wouldn't trade anything. It was super fun and enjoyable.
Oh, very cool. And Katahdin's not an easy way to finish that either, right? I mean,
No,
that's, monkey bars and all. How do you get over monkey bars? Do you know what I'm talking about?
I mean, I think so. It
It's
wasn't.
that piece of rebar that's there, and it's a big,
He caught his second wind. I think like
okay.
when he knew he was going to get the record, I think he was just like he was pumped. He had all his like closest friends with him, so it was that can carry you pretty far.
Yeah, yeah. Awesome. That's a great thing. And I guess you had some other did you so I watched another quick video about Katahdin, and was that route that you took, was that right off a knife's edge, or was that
the chimney couloir?
Yeah. Was that?
Yeah, that was another like incredible. I mean, this is why I love backcountry skiing in New England is that we have these world-class features that you show this off and people are like, where is that? Like that looks like it could be in the Alps or Alaska or something. And Katahdin has that like this
distinctive,
crazy feel to it where it's like so out of place. It just pops up out of nowhere and it's so striking, the features, and you get a little bit of that here on like in Huntington Ravine or something, or some of the on the Webster Cliff sides. There's some cool little runs and geological features, but man, so there's nothing that compares to Katahdin. It's hands down like one of the best up there, if not the best area to ski or like mountaineer climb. It's got a little bit of everything, and it's fickle. It's just like Mount Washington.
Yeah.
You can go in there and totally get skunked, and it's, I used to think it was such a big effort, but now you can get, as I got more experience, I started doing these single day trips in where I just got to, I think I had to get apply for like a little day use permit that's free.
Yeah.
The parking's free, but you just have to make sure that you have your plan dialed and you give that to the rangers at every checkpoint along the way. You leave them your plan. And anyway, so it's with the gear, again, like I was saying, you can get to these really remote places that are like 26-mile days on skis, but they're like full value, and it's nothing new to the ultra running world to like be out on your feet for 16 plus hours. So Katahdin just has so much going on for it in terms of skiing that there's a lottery to get in the bunkhouse in Chimney Pond that's like people drive all the way to Millinocket just to wait in line to get a lottery to get a chance for like a window to camp out there. Yeah. And there's a reason why.
That's the popularity. Oh,
Oh, no, go ahead, Anna.
I was just going to say, I mean, how has the popularity of backcountry skiing in the Northeast changed over, the last 20 years? I mean, is it the same popular or is it risen in popularity? Is it,
Yeah,
you know,
it's exploded in many ways. I think like there was a wave of growth that really happened at the same time that I was really getting into it. All the gear was being manufactured by every company was picking up backcountry specific categories and making the boots, the skis, the bindings, and I think it's plateaued a little bit. I would say early on, people have been backcountry skiing forever. Like long before I ever clicked into a ski, there was people touring but the gear just didn't get good enough, in my opinion, until like 2000, I don't know, 2008 or something, when this brand Dynafit really pioneered the binding systems, and people are still using alpine style skis that were a little heavier, but at least the binding was more ergonomical and efficient. So that's sort of right time, right place. When I got into it was when the gear got really good and made sense, because my brother, I remember going up Tuckerman Ravine with my brother in 2003, and he was on tele skis, and that just did not appeal to me. I'm like, I'm just going to keep my skis on my back and hike up.
Gotcha.
And eventually the touring gear got good enough that it didn't feel like much of a compromise. So anyways, that improvement in gear, and then I think there was just, people got bored just the same way I did, and wanted to either, I think now it's grown into a lot of fitness opportunities to go up ski resorts. It's called uphilling. And then also just people that want to get away from the lifts. People want that wilderness experience. People want first tracks. Backcountry skiing is going to offer all of that. And it's going to appeal to such a big market. So you can come in from an alpine background, a Nordic background. You can come in as like from a triathlete or something, like a running background, hiking background. There's so many different ways to get into the sport that it's just kind of a catch-all for anyone that likes that wilderness experience or backcountry mountain experience. So anyway, so there's a reason why it's exploded. And then there's been user groups that have formed. I helped start Granite Backcountry Alliance in 2016, and that's a nonprofit that increases skiable terrain in New Hampshire and Western Maine. And that's mostly through the old CCC trails and some of the glades, but being an active user group that can responsibly create and maintain zones.
Gotcha. So is like, I know a lot of times, part of this also is that it was a nice way to go skiing without buying a ticket, right? For some people. I think they've kind of gotten around that now, right?
I guess. I think like nothing's going to replace skiing at a resort where you can just do a bunch of lift laps. I never thought of it as like that way. I think I grew up here, and so like there's always a soft spot for like resort skiing, and also just they have this thing called the Valley Pass that gets you a few tickets to every resort, both Nordic and Alpine in the Valley. And so I remember getting one of those, and it wasn't until later when I was like, okay, I want to focus all my free time in the backcountry because that's where I have the most fun. And I've kind of circled back, and I have a pass again because I need to test gear out, and the conditions here can be very, like I said, very fickle, and you can't get out all the time in the backcountry or make it worth your while. If it's low snow or just firm conditions, it's not as fun as going to the resort. So I think there's a balance. I get it. Like some people just want to get away and be in control. Like I love the ability, even just to uphill at a resort, to catch a sunrise if you can go before they're open. I think that is so valuable because you still get a lot of the things that you seek out with like a sunrise and some fitness and being up high. It all resonates with me too.
Yeah. It seems like with the popularity of the White Mountains, and it's popular for a reason, because the classic routes and the most popular mountains in a lot of cases are popular, I think, at least for a reason, because Lincoln Lafayette's beautiful, right? And Mount Washington is as well. Not that there's not other beautiful places out there. How do you balance your how do you balance and accept the massive humanity that can be on the trails sometimes. Like, does that like ever like I don't know, like drive the locals crazy, or how do you view that?
Well, that's interesting because I think that the midweek experience is still very much quiet.
Mm-hmm.
And the times of day that I'm up there, it's either like really early or really late. So I
Mm.
tend to like avoid the masses, almost to a detriment where I I think the ski culture has really grown and the community's grown to the point where I know so many people now and it's fun and it's social
Mm.
and I like to be on the trail and chances are I pass someone I might know them or recognize them
Mm-hmm.
and have a conversation and on the weekends during the chaos it is insane. Like there's people everywhere, but it's a circus and I sort of appreciate it to what it is because that's sort of what I grew up with. I grew up going to Tuckerman Ravine in the spring and it just being an absolute, I mean, shit show for really, yeah, that's what it is because you got people tomahawking every like 10th skier and some people jumping the cliffs and you name it, seeing just every type of ski, every type of backpack setup. I mean, there's people that just do that pilgrimage once a year, every year since they were however old and like aren't even going to entertain the idea of getting on backcountry gear. They're just going to take their old skis and boots up. And so I have an appreciation for that. I think that's like the history of the mountain and how Tuckerman Ravine is the epicenter for backcountry skiing, especially in the springtime. But what we've seen is it's become every weekend of the winter. So now we're getting a lot more midwinter skiing, and yes, it's more likely to be in a potential avalanche cycle, or there's going to be hazards that wouldn't exist in the springtime. Springtime has its own hazards. And obviously you can have winter-like conditions in the spring and spring-like conditions in the winter, but it's just that was never as prevalent as it is now. When I was starting back here was the midwinter skiing was definitely very chill, whether it was on the weekend or not. And so, but now the parking lot's almost just as full every weekend if the weather's nice. But I will say, yeah, midweek you can, or if you go into the northern presidentials or you go into some of the other remote areas where there's riverbeds, slides, glades, like you're just not going to see that many people. And you can, yeah, that's a weird trade-off with the sport is that often you want to get some of these zones can only handle a few people skiing them before they get skied up. And that's either like rocks start showing up, there's no powder. It's sort of like, what's the point of being out here if it's tracked up and like, you're putting all this effort in to get to these remote areas, not to go get sloppy seconds. Like you want to be the first track.
Yeah.
And so that can be frustrating, but it's like a give and take. It's like, I'm in this business and like I'm promoting the sport. Like you can't have it both ways all the time.
Yes. It did, as I was asking that, I was like, well, he does own a ski company. So like if there's a lot of people, that's
fault.
A good thing. And the locals, it's good for the whole community, I'm sure, to have that. So I had to ask you this. The other question I had was that like after you finish a Presi with skis, like what do your skis look like? I mean, are they like trashed or are they, can you dress them up enough or how did they, like, do you have to own a ski company to do that?
And that's a great question. I would say sometimes yes, sometimes they get pretty beat up. Like this, I went to Katahdin this spring and like it was pretty low. They had like a really bad winter. We had a bad winter in general, but it was super low tide over there. And I remember I skied out of the Chimney Couloir. We just skied the lower section of it because it was like pretty high abbey. And I just made one turn and I should have known because I hiked up it, but like there was just like a ton of rocks in the bottom and just took a huge chunk out of my base. And I was like, it's like I knew that this was going to be an issue. When I did that hut traverse, I was coming out of Zealand Notch and the water precinct had just plowed the entire road, that 3-mile road in. And so it was all chewed up like sandpaper, like it got down to dirt in some sections. And so I was trying to ride the snowbank, but I would sometimes hit and just stop and like almost double eject go head over heels. And so, yeah, there's instances, where my skis don't look great, but that particular traverse, I think there was so much snow on the presidentials that even if there were rocks, I usually had my skins on. And so, yes, my skins don't look great. Like they have like little chunks of fur missing, but fortunately I think like the skis are fine. But I mean, I own a ski shop. I get free skis most of the time, and
Yeah.
it's like a work expense, you know, like it's kind of part of the job. And it's what I tell every backcountry skier, they're tools, not jewels. Like beat them up, use them, like don't destroy them. But like it's backcountry skiing. Like you're gonna hit stuff, and they're gonna get dinged up.
Very good. Very good. So I know that obviously you just had the White Mountain 100 this past weekend. So I wonder if we could maybe talk about that. Maybe you could just tell us how you came up with the idea, or how it came to be.
Yeah, it was good to see you there at the finish.
Yeah.
I think the White Mountain 100 was just like something long time coming. It was, I mean, I really discovered it through pacing Scott Jurek. When I looked at my Strava files, I was like, wait a minute, wait, look at this. I'm sure so many people thought about it before, but that's how it got on my radar, was just looking at my Strava files and seeing that I'd done like 99 miles on my watch. And, so that kind of stuck with me. And I chatted with some of the old guard, like Ryan Welts or Christina Fulsick, about it. And, I'm sure it was on their minds too. And anyway, it was like 2020 and COVID. And I was like, I don't know. I was like, oh, I should just go and try this. And so the way I envisioned it was always like kind of like the AT. I always envision it south to north. And so I was like, all right. And I also was looking at like the boundary lines of the White Mountains. And so I saw it starting a little bit further south in Warren, New Hampshire, at the next road crossing. And so I just more or less on a whim, packed a bunch of stuff into a backpack and was going to do it unsupported. And yeah, I started from Warren, and like was having an awesome experience. Made it as far as like some memorable moments on it was like, oh, it was super hot that day. Like it must have been in the mid 80s with like high humidity or something. But like I was drinking, basically I had a bag of Scratch in my pack. Did not know much about nutrition at the time. And it did not, it was definitely like one of the longer pushes I'd done. But I got to Liberty Junction and I was like drinking out of the river there and just refueling. I remember that, and everything was going fine. This whole thing was like, wow, I'm having a good time. I'm moving well. And I'd done other stuff before then. So it's like 2020. So I'd done a 100-miler. I'd done a Hut Traverse. I'd done some bigger pushes in the White Mountains. But I ended up going to Zealand Notch, and it started to get dark. But I was like, man, I did like 50 miles. It's like, I don't know, I'm feeling okay. And it's just starting to get dark. I had yeah, but the day was catching up with me. It was like maybe 15 hours in, so I was moving well. But then the wheels just fell off, and it was just a lot of like inexperience and picking the wrong day to play with matches. Like when it's hot out, like you have no and humid, you have no business putting in a big effort. It's just a kind of a waste of time because you're not going to get the most out of yourself. And I like was getting super sleepy, so I was like heading down the Ethan Pond Trail, and I laid down on the bog bridge somewhere and tried to sleep and couldn't sleep. And I was like, man, I just wasted a bunch of time. And then I get to 302, which is pretty much the halfway point. And it's supposed to be easy, but like my legs were shot, and I was like pretty dehydrated, and I started hiking up. I remember drinking out of the river there, the Saco, and it's like a red tint to it. So it's extra gross. And I don't usually filter my water in the White Mountains anyway, but like that just made me start dry heaving. And then I lost like my ability to climb at that point. And you're right at the base of Webster Cliffs, and it's like a really steep, punchy, like 2,000-foot climb to get up.
Thank you. Right, everybody.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm glad that you clarified that. Where I hurt my knee was was not necessarily an easy trail. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever gone down it, or maybe I've gone down it in the winter. Like I've done I've climbed up Shoestring Gully and gone down with a little bit of snow. But I'll say that, at that point I was like, well, my goal time's gone, but I'll just keep moving. I'll keep trying to get this done. And I ended up taking a bunch of dirt naps. Nothing worked. I tried to reset, wouldn't. My cardio, again, I couldn't. Anytime I went up an incline, I just like was dying. And it was just brutal. And I at some point, I'm like, this
so you
isn't...
figured, what the hell? Let's invite other people to do this, right? I mean, holy
No, so this
crap!
is-
It sounds
I mean, this is-
wonderful.
This is
right?
so
Let's share the
fun.
love. Let me tell my friends.
Well, just like that first 10K, it was really bad, but you learn a
Yeah.
lot as you do these things, and you can hopefully bring it around. And if we've learned anything from ultra running, it's like there's a small chance you can recover. And
Yeah.
I did not recover. I made it through the presidentials. I called Monty, my right hand man, to come pick me up at Pinkham. I was probably coming off of Osgood at that point, and I like jumped in streams. I tried everything I could to like reinvigorate myself, and it just wasn't working. And that wasn't the style I wanted to do it. I wanted to do this in a way that was like a effort that reflected my fitness, and it just was not this. So I had no problem jumping off trail 80 miles or 85 miles into this effort with just the Wildcat Cardamarais left, which would have taken an eternity for me to like figure out how to get through. Given how bad my climbing was, it just wasn't possible. So that was 2020. Christina Fulsick did it not long after, and was the kind of the first one to get it all done. And so she went supported from Mariah to Moosilauke, and after that it was like very slow trickle of people completing the route. But it was interesting watching it grow. It really wasn't until even like a couple years ago that it gained a lot of attention. So like 2023 maybe it seemed to be like the hot thing, and it makes sense though. And it just seems like the evolution of trail running in the White Mountains is like, oh, we have our Presi, we have our Pemi, we have the Hut Traverse, and now we have this 100. And it's like, on paper it's perfect. It's a point to point, it covers the greatest hits. It's incredibly hard, but it's a route that so many people fail the first time and then get it later. So it's a common theme that we saw this last weekend, that 6 of the 9 finishers had failed before. So
6 of the 9.
Anyway, so it was just in the back of my mind, and doing the stuff we've been doing with Run the Whites and having events under our belts, it was like, okay, now the community's ready for something like this. And as a event director, I'm ready for something like this. And so it was, again, the timing was right to give this a shot. And so last winter, I put this on Ultra Sign Up to just gain attention and see who was interested, gauge interest. And it turns out a lot of people care about this route. Whether they're ready for it or trained up for it or not, there's over 120 people that had shown interest in it. So that says a lot. And that gave me even more confidence that like, this is the right move. We need to make this happen. And it's not a race, but it's technically we're just logistical support. So it gets a little fuzzy in terms of that, but I think that's the attitude that most fat ass races have. It's like, it's not about the time, it's about helping people get through it.
Right on. Yeah. As you and I discussed, it has a lot of similarities with the Cut 112, which, is a route all the way across the state of Connecticut. Doesn't have the elevation, obviously, that the White Mountains have, but it is the same thing. It was an obvious route that sat there, and just like the White Mountains said, you know what, we need a 100-miler. I guess when you first started looking at this, Connecticut said the same thing. We need one, and finally, it was like, yeah, let's have it, and nobody was going to do it, and then finally I said, okay, you know what? I'm doing it this day. Who's with me? And got a couple people, I got one person to do it the first year, and then 5 to do it the next year, 5 to finish it the next year. I think we had 15 or something like that sign up and start it. Legitimate runners too, not like, because I made people give me qualifications before I would let them like try it, because I just felt like, it's not something that you just go out and try to do,
No, this isn't stuff you want to off the couch.
Yeah. So, and then it's grown since, it's grown since then. And it's kind of, now I think people do it without any involvement from me legally, according to my attorneys. I have no responsibility for any of it. So,
assuming you do that again next year, like, would you do anything differently, or you have any different goals for next year or any future attempts?
Oh yeah, I'm gonna make Art send me his playbook. I don't know. A lot of the first year, it's like there's so much stuff going on to figure out. I think I'm getting better at the communications and logistics, but this one was really difficult because we were supposed to have it the previous weekend and the weather was marginal. So as a race director, I had to make that difficult call to postpone it and see if that was even an option, because I don't think moving forward that it's going to be feasible if it's bigger, because it's just more moving parts and it's hard to block off 2 weekends for so many in September nonetheless. And so being a guinea pig year, it was really just like, let's see what this looks like. You'll get people, we'll get a couple fast people, we'll get some slow people, and just see what the logistics look like. And so, yeah, there's lots of, I mean, I have a bullet point list of things I'd like to change because I found myself driving people to Pinkham Notch at 3 a.m. and I'm like, I should not be doing this.
No way.
I shouldn't be responsible as
correct.
If I'm supposed to be in charge of this race. But no, I split the duties with Monty, my co-race director, and we get a lot of volunteers through our other events to help out, but it's still not enough. Like, I need more volunteers and I need more scheduling. But I felt, since we only had 16 people start, and as this gets going and halfway you lose like 5 people, now you're just managing, 9 or 10 people past 302. It's like, there's no point in having this drop bag station open or having someone cover a shift when no one's going to come through. Whereas if you had more people, this 20-hour window, they would have people coming every like 15 minutes or half hour or something. And so this year was a lot of a la carting the aids or the drop bag stations. So I would have, next year would be more people. I don't know what the right number is, like 50 people max or something. I'd still want to keep it small. And I would want the road crossings to be staffed full time, but with like a aid captain. And I'd want everyone to have a bin that follows them along so that if they drop, their bin is with them. So there's no like me shipping drop bags back to people that ended up getting brought back to the shop. And I would think I would want people to stage their cars in different locations closer to where most people might drop out or closer to the finish. And then I would want, what were some other good takeaways? One is like calling in the local community for beds, like for people that were traveling to like meet people in the area instead of staying at a hotel. Like we had a couple people travel from out of town that came the previous week. So obviously didn't have it, but it's like made me think, like, if people are traveling, I'd love to have that option of like a homestay with someone local
that'd
they
be
could,
great.
that they could stay with. And then the mapping was really cool. My friend Sven put together, he works for Strava. He works for Fat Maps that got acquired by Strava. And he put together an app, a web app that pulled in everyone's Garmin InReach. So that was critical for us to see where people were.
Yeah,
and
that's huge.
I made it so that everyone had to have an InReach, but I think some people shove InReaches in like weird pockets and they don't get good reception. And as they're trying to ping out a GPS coordinate, they're like losing battery. And so lots of dead GPS units, which was a problem. So like trying to fix that. But the app was really critical in terms of where to be at a certain time and who was where. And that was super helpful. So that was a takeaway that like, man, if I didn't have that web app, I don't know how to track everyone. I have to like click on everyone's individual tracker link. So that was really, I think that's like a very groundbreaking thing, is to have Garmin, which is the best GPS service in the White Mountains I've found, versus like Spot or some of the other brands. It just gets the best reception to utilize that. And then communications in general, using Starlinks was like kind of groundbreaking for me. I owned a Starlink until this weekend, and utilizing that at some of the road crossings was like, whoa, this, like, even though there's a little bit of tree cover, you can still find an open spot and get really good coverage. And so again, keeping communication open between all these remote areas was super important too. And of course, like mandatory gear was going to be a thing next year. Just like, again, I wanted this to be very hands off, but like, as this becomes, bigger, it's like you have to be more responsible and ensure that, like, hey, if you want logistical support, you're going to have to carry this stuff. So
I was going to say, is there is there some kind of waiver they're signing off on, right? Because they're not paying to do this.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
No, when they sign up on Ultra Sign Up, there's like a waiver that
Okay.
describes like, hey,
Okay.
this is a event, not a race. This is logistical support. We're abiding by the the wilderness guidelines and making sure that we're not, making sure that's well known, because even the Forest Service reached out and I was like, yeah, this is what we're doing. It's group sizes 10 or less. Like we're going to, if we're going to start in waves so that everyone's separated and detail it. Cause that's the only way to do this event. Like you're never going to get this permitted, and not right now, at least like with the wilderness restrictions. So doing it in waves, and especially in a event that like time isn't that important, like it really isn't. Like people are going to finish when they're going to finish, but setting people off in waves doesn't really matter, because the fast people are going
Right. They're going to
end up,
immediately.
they're going to spread out, and they're going to like link up with other fast people. And it's not like you're going to get this pod of like 20 people. It's just not, that's not how it works.
Would you ever have a cutoff time or anything?
Yeah,
like that?
that was another another thought. It was like hard cutoffs, because it's just not fair to,
because otherwise it turns into a stage race, right? Especially if you allow sleeping.
Yeah.
If that's permitted.
This year we had a couple that started earlier, and then they said, they're like, we're going to take like up to 70 hours. And I was like, that's fine. Like I want to support this, but like it's not feasible like the next year, every year, to just have like no cutoffs, and you still feel responsible. Like even if they are self-sufficient, I'm still like, you're still part of this event and I want to be there, but I can't be everywhere. Yeah. So you're right. Like the aid stations would all have like cutoffs, and it just is what it is. I think at some point, like you have to rein it in, more or less. Yeah,
you have to, because otherwise you need that just to define the event. I mean, that was, I think as you and I were talking about it, that I tried to figure out how to handle that with the Cut 112, and just made it that, listen, you can't sleep, and then determined that like probably 45 hours was probably the most that like anybody should be awake in my opinion, whatever. So I kind of kept it to that, and that was about, I made sure that I was at the finish line, and I've watched every runner finish except for, ironically, Mark Kelly. The first year that he ran it, I was just out of my mind and screwed up, and he finished without me being there, which was like devastating to me,
Yeah.
And then I missed him at your race. I missed him by whatever, a couple 15 minutes or something.
You missed the finish?
I was at the finish, but he was in a chair when I got there, because I didn't know, get this, can you believe it, that I didn't know it was going to take like an hour to drive from the basin or wherever to get there.
Yeah, you just gotta listen to me, or just
so I thought I was going to get there in time, and I didn't really know what, in fairness, I didn't know what time Mark was going to get there either, but I'm
just curious, was the range of times, like, was that expected, or what was the range of times, finishing times, and was it what you expected?
I had everyone put their goal times, and most people were realistic, and they're somewhere in the 40 something hours. And Mark was right on time, like in his window, like it was 48 to 52, and he was just under 52. Some of the lower numbers just got thrown out the window, like in the sub 30s, but those people, changed their perspective and were like, oh, we'll just like joyride this. But they were all like potted up together, which made it really fun, because you could get 5 or 6 people come through at once, which was like a novelty for such a small group. And then, Jackie and Nick were just like, we're going to be like 60 to 70 hours. They're going to sleep at a couple of the road crossings, regroup, and like just cruise their way through. And they were in such good spirits and got it done. And it's not any easier. Honestly, it's not any easier taking all those breaks. Like you still got to get there and get through it.
These miles aren't going to run themselves, right?
But about the driving, you're right. Like driving from these locations is such a pain in the ass, because the basin at the foot of Franconia Ridge is, you have to drive north on the highway for like 5 miles, 6 miles up to Cannon to like flip a bitch, come back, and then drive up these windy roads to get to Kinsman Notch or to get to the other side in Glencliff. Getting to Glencliff is like getting over that notch south of Moosalok is like so painful. And so what I was doing was like, man, I was at 302, then I was at Pinkham, and then back to 302, and then up to Franconia, and then Franconia back to Pinkham. I mean, Franconia back to 302, and then back to Pinkham, and then back to the shop, and then from the shop, running around the Kank on the other side to get up to the basin, and then from the basin up to Beaver Brook, and Beaver Brook back to town, and from town back up to like the finish. And I was just like, I was just like all around, and I mean, that's what you have to do when you're plugging the holes in the ship. But I did have like a great crew of volunteers, but the rain, the rain postponing the event definitely reduced the number I had. But I will say the volunteers crew that I had was amazing and incredibly helpful. But it's just like another reminder that volunteers make these events exist. Without volunteers and staff, like you just can't do this.
Gotcha. So your first finisher was 32 hours, is that right?
Yeah, Joe Miller, 32:14, I believe, or 32:09 or something. 32:14. He tried it the weekend before. Well, 6 days before, 7 days before the start, he tried it. Yeah. Hit bad weather and like had to recover, had a week to recover, and then back on it.
Gotcha.
He was all trained up, and he made it to 302, and sort of just like the wheels fell off, like nutrition. It wasn't physically the problem, but this time it's like he had that in his legs, and then he made it halfway in like 12 or 13 hours, and then it took him 20 hours to do the rest. So it was just super tough. I mean, it's like the terrain is not going to give it up easy, and things are going to pop up that like with your body and tendons and stuff that maybe you never expected.
What do you think what do you think the fastest time could be on that, or what range do you think?
I mean, when Jack Kensel did it, I mean, he was going south north the first attempt. He did it in like the fall before he set the official record. He made it to Washington, but he got like trench foot. I don't think he changed his socks or shoes enough, and but he was on pace to do like 24 hours. And then when he went back, he did it in 26:09 or something like that, which is wildly fast. And that's about the limit for more or less. Like, I don't think you're going to run that much faster. Moving 4 miles an hour in the White Mountains is wild.
Justin Kowski?
Yes, I think so. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Did he win Jigger?
He did. He did in the what do you call it? The man's year or something? The year, the first big year. Rain year. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know him, but I saw him. I was on the moat range when he was turning around to go back to the start, and he was flying.
Yeah. I was just wondering.
Are we sending him up there, Art?
I think so.
I think you should. I think he would do. I think he's proven himself. Like, if you can go as fast as he did on that Jigger course, like, that's going to translate to this stuff too. But no, I don't know. It's like my expectations are. It's going to be hard. Most times they're going to be slower than what you expect.
Oh yeah.
We had beautiful weather too. So if you implement like a little bit of crap weather and water to the situation, wind, it's going to slow you down too. But yeah, I think it's like, I think the times we're seeing right now in the 30s are like incredibly fast. 3 miles an hour in that terrain is no joke. And I think sometimes in the 40s are going to be like more realistic for most people.
Yeah, I would.
I know you probably can't keep this, but I think it was great that you had that second weekend window that you said we may have bad weather. I know it's hard logistically for people but that second weekend compared to the first weekend was so much better.
I don't know. And that's the trouble, is like, it's so unpredictable year to year. And it might just have to be one of those things where it's like, this is our weekend and this is our threshold. And if the weather's marginal, we're not having it.
Because you can't. I mean, yeah, I mean, we all saw it happen in China, right? I mean, at a race in China, 21 people died going up a mountain.
Yeah, I mean,
You
we
know,
all
that
know.
they
Like
couldn't get rescue to them. Whoops, they couldn't get rescue to
I've
them, and
been
that
up in
could be there.
the White Mountains are inhospitable, and like
Mm,
it doesn't take long to
yeah.
get like for things to go very bad.
What's
Right.
what's the closest call that you've had, like on, in the White Mountains or in Washington, where
Uh,
you were like, have you ever had it like where I wonder if I'm going to have to call in, the
no,
fish cops or whoever
no,
they.
I've been pretty heads up on where I've been and what I've been
Mhm.
doing. I think the risky stuff I do is skiing and avalanche terrain, and that's can be like really tough to. Those are hard calls to make sometimes, and
Mm,
we all say we like, oh yeah, we accept the risk, or we think we know what we're doing. We like read the snowpack, and
mm,
shit happens, and it's like as I get older and more perspective and more experience, it's harder for me to like push the limit, like to push the
yeah.
boundaries. Like, is this worth it? And because I think when you're younger or less experienced, you're thinking, well, this is it. I got to go now. And like,
Mm,
it's hard to be like, oh, well, you have another season and another season, another season, another season. Like, why even push it? But it's like, I think we get so starved for good conditions sometimes that like we force ourselves into bad decision making, and it's
mm,
easy just to put on the blinders and, like I said, let your guard down. But as far as like the weather goes, no, I've been pretty good. I hate the wind and I hate like extreme anything. So I'm pretty
mm,
good at cherry picking when possible. Like there's no, in that sense, I can always go tomorrow. Like there's another
mm,
day. I'm not going to go just be uncomfortable. So if stuff sneaks up on you, like that's one thing, but I'm usually able to like, if you get off the summit cone of Washington, it's a different world. So just going down 1,000 feet, generally things get remarkably better. But
mhm,
I think you know this is just as much as I do, is like the trail wants to kill you. It's like so many steps and so many opportunities for things to go wrong, for
mm,
sticks to jab you, for ankles to roll. That's the stuff that's going to get you, or get
mm.
me. Like I've
Yeah.
fallen pretty hard where I thought like hard enough to like break my femur,
Mm,
but like it was just like a deep bruise and stuff like
mm.
that. Like I've cut myself open pretty severely. I've needed stitches a couple
Is
times and stuff happens.
Yeah, is 22 stitches? Is that your Is that your stitch
Yeah.
PR there?
Yeah.
Or
Something like 20.
yeah.
If you count the internal ones too.
Mm.
My palm is like has a nice shark bite on it.
Oh, gotcha. Wow. I found, what, my second worst injury happened on coming down Wiley. There I just stepped on a root and smacked my shin and almost passed out from the pain. And now I have a giant like bulge on my shin still to this day. It blew up
How
like a
far up were you
softball.
on the trail?
Oh, I wasn't on the stairs. It was a while back. I was coming down and I just tried to run up I jumped off the top of this boulder thing and tried to just take two steps and then jump up on this other thing to stop. And I stepped on a root and just my foot went out and my shin went down and and hit it. So it wasn't that, I was fine after once I caught my wind back, but just for a moment, it hurt.
Well,
So,
during the event, we had our in one incident was
mm,
Jimmy Rips. He's the caretaker up at Hermit Lake in Tuckerman Ravine right now. But we were leaving the Beaver Brook. He was leaving the Beaver Brook trailhead with another guy, Ben Judson,
mhm,
and they hear their friend come in. So Jimmy immediately turns to go see him because he wants to say hi before like the final section. And he runs and slips, and it's just got dark out, and
mm,
someone's like, "Oh, Jimmy's hurt. Like Jimmy's forehead is bleeding,"
mm,
and we're just like the vibe just changed. It went from like happy and carefree, these guys are about to finish, to like, oh, we have a problem.
mm,
And Jimmy comes out and his face is just covered in blood, and he had a gash the whole length of his eyebrow on his forehead, and he
yes.
had like fallen just straight to his face like in an instant. Like things just went completely south, and his headlamp I think had fallen and like smashed him in the head and gashed him open. And so
Mm,
it was just one of those moments where things just change in instance. It's like shit happens out there. And so he was able to like, you know, his girlfriend was able to clean it out and tape it up with like some little steri strips, whatever, and put on some Luco tape over it and sent him on his way. But yeah, it was crazy. I mean, that just made me like reiterates the fact of like being prepared and having all of the first aid stuff everywhere, because with that many, it's a numbers game. At some point, you have that many people out there, something's going to happen. And it's like, they would do this on their own, whatever, but you know, there's some obligation, since we're there supporting them, to like be prepared.
And luckily
them to support each other as well.
Luckily it happened right at the crossing, right?
Yeah.
Not up on the mountain there.
Right.
I wanted to ask you a little bit more about the community and kind of what you're building or what you're a part of in Jackson. Like, first of all, why did you choose Jackson to set up your store?
Yeah, I was spending all my free time in the White Mountains as it was. When I moved back here, I was living in Conway for a little bit, and then Madison, which are just south on the southern end of town here. And I was driving 40 minutes, 45 minutes to go to the mountains all the time, or to go to work. I had a little shop up at Black Mountain Ski Area here in Jackson. And so that was like my intro to Jackson, where I never spent much time growing up. And the proximity to where I was skiing all the time made it a bit of a no-brainer. I gave myself a few years when I moved back to figure out like, all right, where do I really want to live? And while I loved where I was living in Madison, it's why you'd move to New Hampshire. It's rural. There's access to dirt roads and snowmobile trails, other mountains. It's kind of easy for me to get to Mount Shikorowa, to get to the Kankamangas Highway. It was kind of equidistant to a lot of things. It was a little bit closer to Boston, a little bit closer to Portland if I was doing things in those cities. So that had a lot of things going for it, but ultimately I was just wasting so much time driving up to Mount Washington and work. And it just made sense that if I had the opportunity moving up here, or at least to Conway, and this was like right before COVID, and I was looking all around, and you know, it was like $200,000 to $250,000 for a house. That was our budget. And it was like, yeah, kind of like not in love with anything, and man, we should have bought something. But you know, we ended up buying this building we're in now, so it all worked out. Like right before COVID hit, we ended up buying this building, and it was like, oh, we can live here, we can have the shop here, I can rent out space. It all makes sense, and it puts me right at the gateway to the White Mountains, which is like exactly where I want to be. And I'm not jealous or envious of anyone else. Like, we're right here. It's 10 minutes, 15 minutes to the trailhead, and there's tons of great running opportunity here. So I don't feel that there's anywhere else I'd really want to be right now. So that was like that's how I ended up in Jackson. And then was the other part just about the community part in general, like getting started.
Let's talk about that. Yeah, like the community, what is the community about, and is it like, what was it like maybe when you got there versus what it is now, and maybe where you'd like to see it go?
Yeah, I mean, I was in this transitional, I think, a couple of years when I got here, where I was learning about like Ben Nephew, Adam Wilcox, like I said, Ryan Welds, Christina Fulsick, Kevin Tilton, Jim Johnson, and then some of the other mountain runners. There was a lot of there's a lot of these races, and they still exist. They're all the ski area up down races. And that's where, you know, you get to go meet people. Those were sort of the trail events. And, but I felt like the trail running community was like, again, like much like backcountry, pretty fragmented. Like there weren't many events to go to outside of those things. And there wasn't the social platforms to share experiences like Strava and Instagram as much at the time. So it was, I think, the discoverability of what's happening with your community, like, just wasn't quite there and developed. So there was all of these ultra events that were happening, but it just, it felt like every year more and more events were getting added to the calendar. And being up here, there was I saw a gap in events that I wanted to do, and why don't these exist? And I think it all started with I wanted a nighttime ski touring series, and so I started one called Friday Night Lights, and I copied what they were doing in Vermont. They had a citizen series on Tuesday nights, and so I was like, oh, I'll do one on Friday nights, and that will be a cool thing we can do because I want to do it. I want to like have this like schemo race for those people that want to go fast, and if people just want to casually tour at night, they can do it. And then it's a way for me to introduce people to the sport and the gear I'm using. So that was what kicked off all the event stuff. Then summer rolls around and it's like, well, why don't we do that same thing with running? And we'll just go up the mountain. We'll go up Black Mountain. We'll design a couple different routes, and every Friday night we'll just go. And if you want to start early and just hike it, go. If you want to run it, great. But we'll all be there and we'll all hang out after and be social. And so that was like, it started out with just, you know, like a handful of people, and then next thing you know, 20 people, and then like maybe 30 or 40 people by the end of it. And it was like a rotating cast of people visiting and locals, and it was really fun. And we have like a trail series, a fun run series put on by the local like run club, which was kind of aging out and very road oriented. And the trail was just a chill cross country trail. And I support them, and I support their events and love that stuff just the same, but there wasn't much trail focus in terms of like our local events. So doing the Friday Night Vert started. And then after that, I started doing some mountain races at the resort, but they were at nighttime. So we switched things up because I found that you only got to run at night in a race if it was like an ultra and you were just going through the night, but it's such a fun experience.
Yeah.
And again, something that I wanted to race in, which I still haven't done yet, but so that was a race that we started. And then I think I've taken over a 10K road race was something here in Jackson that I'd always heard about, but never got
covered bridge.
Yeah. And I never got to do it. And so by resurrecting that event, it was pretty special because it let me kind of partake in an event that has been going on for like 40 years. So that was really fun to have that sort of ability to just kind of take the reins and get that going again. But I'm trying to think if there's any other stuff. Like, yeah, we started a turkey trot. We used to do one at King Pine that I'd participate in, and then that stopped going after COVID. And so we started a turkey trot up here in Jackson. That's amazing, super fun on the Nordic trails. And then the backyard ultra. So, and then of course, like I'd never done a backyard ultra. And my dad acquired some land behind the house I grew up in as a kid. And so why not put a trail on it? And
hold on. So this is actually your backyard, right?
Yeah, it's my backyard.
That's pretty cool.
So that's, a 3.5 mile loop. That's in 2 weeks. And it's just taken a little bit of a life of its own. It's such a fun event. And that is like the epitome of fun, community, good vibe. Totally exactly what you'd want out of a backyard event. So that's coming up. But yeah, these are all just things that I wanted to participate in and I thought were missing. And then it's evolved a little bit more. Like now we have these weird Strava challenges, these throwdowns. And then like, I did this thing called the Swan Song, the Bounty, like for a route that I thought should get more attention on the Swan Song route. And so I've been like giving away gift cards to the shop if you complete that. So it's just like, I don't know. It's just, again, there's what interests me today might not be what interests me tomorrow. And there's going to be stuff
it's not going to be, right? It's not going to be. That's how life is.
The honeymoon period is going to wear off on some things. And you're like, well, what's next? And I try to keep adding or improving year over year, whether it's the summer stuff or the winter stuff, because things do get stale, and it's like, how do you liven it up a little bit? So it's been fun. So anyways, through these events, if you want to look back on them, you're like, oh yeah, of course that like created community. But the short goal was like, well, what's fun? And then if it's fun, people will show up and community will be a byproduct. And that's sort of what's happened.
I think that's, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Anna.
Oh, no, that's okay. I was just curious, like, for example, the throwdown series, do you feel like people are coming from outside the area to do those? Like, is the community not just the, community people who live there, but the people who are coming here for recreation? I mean, how does that play out? And, I'm just curious how far people come to do those throwdown challenges.
I would say like our user group here is mostly out of town. That's just the reality of living in a tourist like vacation area. but there is like a solid local user group here too. So it's like it's a nice blend. And I'd say you're going to get your regulars that are going to do this stuff every race, every challenge, every whatever will show up. And then you're going to get a rotating cast of people that come from out of town that, might seek this out. So I'd say certainly it's a blend, but it's interesting because when you have a race, it's like a finite, this is the time, and it can be hard to get to, but like having a month-long chunk for someone to get on a trail or a route, it makes it a lot more approachable, and it just agrees with a lot of people's schedules in that way. So that part allows people from out of town to make it. But I don't know, summer's tough. Winter's easy to get people from anywhere because there's nothing going on, but summer is like family plans, weddings, vacations. It can be hard to rally people. At least I found that with the Friday night events. It was like the ski events would get like 150 people at times, and then the running would be like 40 max or something. But we're all busy.
Yeah, it is interesting though, because being in the White Mountains, you're really at the crossroads. There's you skim a certain percentage of the population from a wide area. People from New Jersey, from New York, Connecticut, Massachusetts, Vermont, and everything. People from all over are coming to the White Mountains. And I mean, just on a random weekend, it's amazing. I'm always amazed that every time I go there, I all of a sudden look up and I'm like, oh, Marcus is here. Oh, look, I'm up doing a Presi traverse. Yeah, I mean a Presi loop, and there's another guy that I know from Hamden or something like that. So you never know who you're gonna, you meet, you see your friends are up there,
And that was like important for me when I was getting into backcountry skiing, because a lot of my backcountry ski partners were coming from Massachusetts and further, because they were going to drive up. If they're going to drive that far, they were going to commit, and they were going to be out all day. And so those were some of the best people to go touring with, because they already made the commitment to get up there, and they weren't going to waste their time by just doing a short hike or bailing on something. So I found some of my best like partners for endurance sports have been people coming from all over. And I think I see it a lot at the shop with ski touring, that people drive up every weekend from Rhode Island and like frequently from Connecticut. I hired one of my coworkers that did the White Mountain 100. He was coming from Connecticut all the time. He's from, must be
who's that now?
Spencer,
not Spencer Farrar.
Spencer Ralston. So
okay. Gotcha.
He's got I don't know if he claims Hebron or was it Glastonbury?
I'm in Glastonbury, so
yeah, he might claim Glastonbury too, but I don't know.
Oh, okay.
We'll have to do some fact checking.
Yeah.
But no, he was driving up here all the time once he really fell in love with the White Mountains and backcountry skiing too. So I get it. Like it's not surprising that people are willing to make that extra long trip up here.
Yeah, I have to ask if I might call you up and ask you for a realtor too. So
my brother, my oldest brother can help you out. There you
all
go.
Right. Maybe I might be reaching out to him though. We might need a Cultra
we need
sub office for business purposes only. I might make the expenditure, and so Patreons, you guys are going to have to step up. It's if you want good content like this, like Andrew Drummond, we got to represent in the White Mountains. So consider stepping up a little bit. I think it's good for everybody, right?
I'll throw in $5 for that cause.
Okay.
or I'll cover your entry fee.
Okay. All right. Let's see. So Anna, did you have any other questions that were,
I have a question.
Yeah.
So I'm just curious, like maybe this is a little touchy-feely, but sort of what's your inspiration to do either kind of an FKT race kind of thing or more of a project? Like where are you now with all that? And are you at different places with that question, at different points in your life? I don't know. I mean, you obviously are very, very talented, so you can do well in races. Some people, they just like adventure maybe because they don't, they don't do well in races or whatever. But obviously, like you could pick and choose what you want to do. So like, where are you at with that? Am I going to do a project like the 100 Summits, or am I going to do an FKT? Like, how does that play out in your mind when you're thinking of your future and that kind of thing?
That's a great question. And I think it's been something that I've struggled with a tiny bit because when I got introduced to running through like road running, it's like, how much do I want to chase times and what is my potential? So I struggle with that. And what I often would get derailed by all the mountain stuff because you go out and do a Pemi loop and then your legs are trashed, you can't do a workout, and now your road running might suffer. And I constantly, I used to think more about, did I squander a lot of my golden years as a runner in my mid 30s, early 30s, where I could have been focusing and focused and disciplined on specific goals. In hindsight, though, like when I really do reflect back on what I choose to do, every summer I walk away or winter, I'm pretty like I'm grateful for whatever I was able to do. And I'm like, wait a minute, I just did what I wanted to do. And that's like I can't fault myself for that because it allowed me to explore the White Mountains, allowed me to do big projects or support other people in their big projects and dabble in a little bit of everything because at some point you're like, oh, I want to run a 100 miler. Oh, I want to do a Pemi loop. Oh, I want to do help someone on their White Mountain, their 48s or something. So I constantly moved around. And if I look back and reflect on each summer, there was something that resonated and had a lot of purpose and motivated me. And so this, I guess the last couple of years, it's been like, well, I like to get perspective and I like to do, if I can get a trip somewhere, that's really fun. And so traveling to Europe or Alaska or something like that's where I'd get my perspective. Last summer, I went and did the Hard Rock course and I got to see that area. Some year, like I went to UTMB for 5 years in a row, more or less, did a couple of those races, followed along. And then I've done a few other destination races that like, yeah, I don't know that I want to right now. I'm like kind of burnt out on racing, but that's where like you're saying the projects or other things that might interest you kind of swoop in. And it's like right now, the FKT thing is kind of fun, but it's more of just like that self-exploration. What am I capable of that you can apply that to anything. And I think that's what is always going to motivate me. It's like, well, I've done this. How can I apply that towards something else that will be rewarding? And so like this summer I did the Direttissima and that's, yeah, for those that don't know, it's linking all 48 4,000 footers on foot, unsupported, carrying all your own gear, walking from trailhead to trailhead, no resupplies. And that was I'm glad that's over and I kind of can put that behind me. But it was a little bit of unfinished business. I did it in 2016 and that was my first time ever doing a multi-day effort. And it went well. It didn't go as well as it could have gone, but it was always kind of like, maybe I'll come back to it, but not really thinking I'd come back to it. And so it takes years and things often come full circle and you're like, oh, maybe I'll be ready for another 100-mile race again. But it's just, I was expecting to want to sign up for something next summer and that itch hasn't really come. And this year, I really enjoyed the training for like these multi-day things. So I think as a reward to myself, it's like, well, find another multi-day thing and then you get to train for it, which is like, I think really, really enjoyable when you get to have, push yourself to be disciplined in the training for that, but like in a way that it's in the mountains, most of it. So it's not like triathlon or something where you're on the road or on a trainer. Like I don't do any treadmill work or anything. Like all the stuff I do is going to be hiking up a mountain on skis or running up a mountain or hiking a mountain with a heavy pack or something like that. So, yeah, so it's different summer to summer. And I think next summer I'm going to get on the long trail, whether it's for an FKT or not. It's going to be, I need that reference point of seeing what that trail is like because it's a premier route in the Northeast. And so it's something like I want to connect with like all of these um, I don't know, important, these classics. So it's like, I kind of want to see what it's all about. I'd love to get on the Appalachian Trail at some point too, or at least section hike sections of it.
Mm.
But yeah, I don't know. It's it's going to be something fun. That's like all I know is that whatever my body allows me to do as well. I'm 40, I'll be 45 next year, and it's not getting any easier. Like the back pain is real, and um, all the stuff I've done beating myself up is certainly catching up with me.
Well, I mean, you're totally inspiring. So whatever you do, we'll be watching and like it'll change, I think, what we do and what many other people do. So thank you
Mm.
for that.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a great point. I think that like anytime you're above tree line like that, it's you gotta like how can you possibly regret that, right? And the fact that you do that and that you get people we all experienced the boot spur this weekend. And if we had known that there was a challenge, we probably
No,
would
you
have gone faster than 3 hours and maybe taken down that 40-minute time. Just saying.
Oh yeah,
But
for
it
sure.
was, and not, but probably not because we would have still stopped just to like look at the jaw dropping view from there, and just how beautiful that was just, amazing. So the fact that you're turning people on who may not have been to the boots, they may not have done that route before, and if your challenge got them to do that, then man, what a cool thing it is to come up with a, um, just to shine a spotlight on something and to, share the love of the trails. I think that's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, and that's exactly what it's turned out to be, is this opportunity to offer like some recommendations to and to sort of gamify it a little bit, but like it's like peak bagging where you can spread people out and share your favorite trails. You're like this route on Adams, I finally did this Adams challenge route, which is it uses like several trails, weaves up to the summit of Mount Adams. And if you do it, you get like, you used to be able to get like a beer or something at one of the local bars after the fact, or coffee. I can't remember, but that's no longer, I don't think that's the deal anymore, because the place is no longer in business. But I was like, I need to go do this route and just go see it. Like I've done most of the trails, a lot of the trails in the RMC network on the Northern Presidentials there, but it takes you on the Scar Trail, which I'd never been on before. And so I was like, oh, I'm going to make this, I have to make this part of the throwdown because it's such a beautiful trail. I wanted Adams. I was originally just going to go straight up Airline Trail, which was fine. Like that would have been totally acceptable, because Mount Adams is incredibly rewarding of a hike, a run. It's like can be more challenging than Mount Washington. So it just seemed like a good summer route. And then once I went on the Scar Trail, I was like, I need to add this in. And so I was like, well, go up Valley Way, cross over Scar, and then up Airline. And you kind of get the best of everything, because you get Valley Way is pretty easy compared to the whole route. And then the Scar Trail is this beautiful, like old school trail that's barely beaten in, mossy and green in sections, that gets you from Valley Way over to Airline. And then Airline pops up above tree line, and you're on this, like on the eastern flank of King Ravine, and it's striking and beautiful. And anyway, I did this. I was like, this will be the route. And of course, almost everyone misses the turn on the Scar Trail because it's tucked away. The junction isn't an obvious junction. There's a sign like out of sight. And even with GPS and everything, people still missed it. But it was really fun to read like all the Strava reports that people went out there, and they just they shared that same love for the trail and that respect for like these hidden gems that I shared. And when I go out and do these things, I'm not in the top 10, like the level of talent is out of control. And I would get to the summit, and I would like have exerted myself and just put in my best effort on the day. And that alone was like incredible. And so you kind of get this like little euphoric experience of being in the mountains, putting in a hard effort. And then you see, as soon as you start to see other people doing the same thing, like I'd be descending and someone would be coming up and you cheer them on. It was like, okay, this is why I'm doing this. This is why this is all worth it.
Very good. Yeah, that is I think that's great that you're sharing that with other people, have you ever considered doing I guess you call it a red line, like where how many or do you know offhand how many trails are in the White Mountains? And I know it depends on whether we're counting, bushwhacks or we're what we're counting, but is there anything that exists like that you guys know
yeah.
of?
Oh yeah. No. So that's the whole thing is the red liner. Like they call it the trace now, but like the guidebook.
Okay.
So you take the whole guidebook, the AMC guidebook, and everything's that stuff.
That seems familiar. Yeah. So
that's called a trace. It's almost the equivalent of like hiking the AT. And so that's the thing that I think Phil Karsha made it his thing to do it in a single season, and it took him 3 tries to do it in a summer. And the logistics of it are just crazy. But the beauty of it is it takes you to some really trails you never be on. It's like peak bagging, an extreme version of peak bagging that will expose you to perhaps like some amazing little trails that no one goes on, or you'd never like burn the calories to get to.
Yeah.
But there's the RMC version. So the RMC network is at least 100 miles of trails. And so when you get an RMC membership, the Randolph Mountain Club, they give you like a little book to like do them all. And I think that's a thing that someone hasn't really done yet in one push.
Oh, okay.
So I'll be curious to see who steps up to that, because it's going to be like, I don't know how many miles, like 130, maybe between 100 and 130, I'm sure, to do all the Randolph network, because it goes on to the north side as well of Route 2. So there's additional trails than just what you see on Adams, Madison, and Jefferson.
Okay.
But my plug is the RMC is incredible. Like everyone should go do it. There's like so many cool features between the waterfalls, the viewpoints, the ravines, and a ton of history there as well. So I know it's a little bit further for people coming from the south, but if you just want to go get lost in a crazy network of trails, like go up to the RMC.
And that is that kind of north, like along the Maine border, or am I like off? It's
Gorham, Randolph, and then it goes over, like wraps around Mount Washington to like Bretton Woods there, Jefferson.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Like right now it's so like, because I still have such a hard time trying to get a linear picture of what the hell's going on in the White Mountains. So I'm always looking at that, but that's, trying to figure it out, but that's cool. Yeah. We'll check that out. Let's see, Josh, did you have anything else that you
I think we're good here. Yeah, we're hitting 2 hours, and it's been great to meet you, Andrew, and hear your story. And congratulations on the Direttissima FKT this summer. That was super cool. I don't know how I started following you on Strava, but I saw you when you were doing that, and I'm like, what's going on here? What's he doing? And then I finally put it together. Oh, I know what's happening. And seeing some of the big pushes you did before you did that were cool. Like Kerrigan over to Washington. That was a cool trip you did. And yeah.
And morning commute, be busy. That was another favorite one I think I saw.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I'll say that like the day-to-day here is like, it's pretty incredible. Like I get why people travel from so far to be here. And when you sort of flip this on its head, it's like, why do we do all this stuff? And it's like, it's pretty simple. Like you get above tree line, or you spend some time in the mountains, and you're just going to have a better day. And I think the take home message is like, yeah, you get outside wherever your home zone is and like make the most of it, but also like keep the perspective, travel. Like definitely I get stuck in my bowl often, and just getting over to the long trail on Monday, I'd never set foot on the long trail before. And I'm like, I can't believe I've waited this long to even go check this zone out. But it's so fun. And now like, just like, expanding your experiences, it makes everything like more relatable. So the more time you can travel, and I don't get down to Connecticut, that I am fascinated. I was telling Art that I'd gone to was it Sleeping Giant Park?
Oh,
yes,
you did.
yes. So
okay.
you're
we
like,
live
that's their backyard. These guys
Yeah.
train there, live there. They have their names carved in the rocks there. So
Yeah.
I mean,
So
it's
I have like a healthy respect for like the Connecticut,
yeah.
Pennsylvania people that they're hardy. You know, they have to train in like some very challenging trail that doesn't always have the most rewards, but it's still like a great experience. And I'm psyched that like I could go down there. Now I can talk to people and be like, yeah, I've done this. Or like I drove back through Connecticut and I hit up another park. I can't recall the name off the top of my head, but it's like, I love that we can just like look on a map and try to find like a town forest or something when you're on the road and get out on trail and you might meet someone or just like find this commonality.
yeah, Connecticut has about 850 miles of trails, 850 miles of Blue Blaze trails alone. And it's a good, that's something that a couple of us have taken on as far as running all of those and stuff. So one year when I was recovering, I went after that and did that. And very similar to what you were talking about, is that you end up running on trails that you might not have gone on otherwise, and discovering things like, trails up off of the AT and things like that are, that are wonderful. But
I remember there was go on, sorry. Yeah.
No, go ahead. You.
Oh no, I was just gonna say there was an article like a few years ago, I think, that like listed all the states in the country, and Connecticut, I think, had the most dense trail system of any state, like per acreage or something like that. It had the most trail systems, and it really does feel like every which way you turn, there's somewhere to go, which is pretty fun. I mean, just for variety's sake. Yeah.
Yeah, they're not very remote necessarily, but they're you go up 300 and down 300 a lot of times, all over
that adds up. I mean, man, Vermont will kill you by like death by like small hills, small mountains. Like there was anything super significant, but by the end of the day, you accumulated a ton of vert and your legs were shot.
Yeah. Excellent. Andrew, well, thanks so much for spending the time with us here. Really appreciate it. It was good to get to know you a little bit better. You're always welcome to come out in Connecticut, and you better believe that we'll be stopping by, Run the Whites and the White Mountain Ski Company. When
Run the Whites?
What'd you
say? Run the Whites?
That's right. And Josh is wearing his Run the Whites shirt right now. So
beautiful.
I don't know if you can see that. So to all of our listeners out there, thank you for listening. If you've made it this far, of course, seek professional help, and we will see you all in a mile
and a half.
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.
All right. Andrew, thank you.
Thank you.
You got me wondering where I was in Connecticut here. I want to give a shout out to like
where were
you?
Yeah, I'm dying. I am dying to know. I was going to ask you, what did it look like? And I can tell you.
See, it pulled up Sleeping Giant. I did a loop.
Yeah, what'd you do there? Do you remember what you did?
It's just showing a loop around Mount Carmel.
Oh, yeah.
Did you go over that? You went over the top and stuff?
I went around it.
Oh, okay.
I didn't even go onto the top of it. I just like looped around it.
Okay. There's it gets way more fun. Like if you
did
go.
the junior version. You did
the baby version.
What do we call that?
You got to start somewhere.
Basin trail. You did the rail trail version.
Come on.
It's okay. Andrew, you'll work your way up.
Yeah, you'll work your way up.
Keep training. You can do it. It is a beast.
It seems busy in there.
Oh, it is.
I mean, me, Josh and me and Art, or like we're in there all.
That's
those heat maps.
That's like our Mount Washington or our Lincoln Lafayette. It is the main part of that is like the carriage trail is very well done. If you went around the outside, it's not a bad trail, but it's not like the most, it's a pretty
Well,
tame.
it was
If you go
definitely
up the
it
Blue
was still
Trail,
techie for what it was.
Yeah.
if you go up the Blue Trail, that's that's big rocks,
Slabs, like 40 degree slabs. Yeah, it's
yeah.
pretty fun.
Well, yeah, we were breaking up a drive to the Jersey Shore, and it was like a million degrees out, and it was hard. That's all I can remember. I was like, man.
Oh, you
Yes.
know what? When I got this shirt, I went into the shop and Monty was there, and he was like, "No, Andrew's not here. He's out of town." So we
And the exchange program.
I might have been in New Jersey. Yeah.
Yeah,
All
yeah.
right. I found the mount. I found the
Oh, okay.
Naugatuck.
Oh, Naugatuck. Okay.
Oh, okay. The Naugatuck Trail. It was it the or Naugatuck State Forest?
Up off of the river,
Yeah,
like up on a cliff with a flag on it.
Yeah, somewhere on there exactly.
It's weird. Naugatuck has a bunch. It's a forest. The Naugatuck Forest has been divided into, I think, 4 sections at least.
Confusing.
So it's kind of it varies greatly depending on where you are. Some of it's pretty gnarly.
It was really cool. Yeah, we went around the reservoir. We're up on that cliff.
Okay.
And there's some cool trail there.
Nice.
I don't know. I really do appreciate just like pulling open Strava and just if I'm on a drive and like,
oh yeah, looking at the heat map or trying
jump
to figure
out here.
Yeah.
Well, I was just looking for like the parks and town forests, like where could we stop and go for a run?
Yeah, if you're ever the easiest way besides calling me is to go to like Connecticut Forest and Parks. So there's like a Blue Blaze trail system that are all managed by the same nonprofit, and they are like, it's almost like a brand of trail. Like they're generally well marked, generally well maintained, well thought out, and
what is the, like, in your opinion, the best that Connecticut has to offer?
I think that's a hard. I would say that Sleeping Giant is right up there. Okay, I would have to throw that in there. I think there's a trail called the Metacom. I think the Cut 112 course is very good, like the Metacomet Trail, which basically starts, if you look at the state of Connecticut and the Massachusetts border, so that's that northern border, there's a little notch in it, and it's just to the right of that, and it's the New England Trail, and it goes all the way basically straight down with a little lightning bolt in the middle, and then hits the Long Island Sound at the bottom. So I'd say the Cut 112 course is, it's a good argument, right? Like, what's the best trail in the White Mountains, right?
But you have like your greatest hits.
And
that, like,
I would say the
low hanging fruit. You could be like, this is like one of them. To be the one.
The Tri-Mountain Tri-State Loop is really nice. That's in the northwest corner, but that uses the AT. Have you been to Bear Mountain?
No, but I see what you're talking about.
That's really nice because you hit 3 peaks. It's like maybe 13 miles or something, and you hit a peak in Massachusetts, a peak in New York and Connecticut.
Frizzle,
it's
Bear
really
Mountain.
pretty, really fun.
Yeah.
Like if you're just happen to be coming down that way, that is really, really nice route.
And more remote part of the state too.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, the AT, the Mohawk Trail, but that tends to be a little bit that's like a 36-mile loop, but that tends to be a little bit hard to follow at times, so that might be frustrating. But
That's cool.
I'd say that's that's good stuff.
Well, yeah, if you guys are ever, obviously, swing by. Anytime
Yeah.
you're up here, and if you want advice or something, I mean, I know you got to check off your 48, so
got
some work to do.
No doubt. So great, Andrew. Well, thanks a lot, and I'll be seriously probably up there in a couple of weeks looking at real estate because I just started talking to my wife about it. I was just so blown away by what I saw and stuff that I'm like, I don't need any more vanilla in my life,
Well,
I
mean, I look at it like, what do you want to be doing in life? And if you have that opportunity to be mobile or to relocate, like, where do you want to be? And I had to ask myself that question before I moved back. And it was like, I don't know. I feel like there's lots of places I could have moved that would have been fine, and I would have enjoyed being in other mountain towns. But I felt like the White Mountains still had this kind of wild, like undiscovered feeling to them as well. Like they just weren't getting as much attention nationally as they felt like they should have. And I feel like we're finally getting there to that point where, okay, people are taking them a little more seriously, which is cool. It's like really kind of gratifying to be part of that and watch it. You know, it can hold its own. I think in the Northeast, it can hold its own with like so many other areas, both in like the winter time for skiing and then also for like the summer objectives too. So I don't know. It's I'm psyched to be up here, and even with the bugs and the humidity and some of the crap weather we do get, there's like, it's very gratifying when like this streak of the conditions we've had this summer have been
insane
and it's so good.
Yeah.
The Cultra Crew, come and have a listen to the Cultra Crew. The largest town, the monkey too. Come and have a listen to the Cultra Crew. Cultra Crew, put Direttissima all over you. Make your ass crack feel like new. Come and have a listen to the Cultra Crew.
Fuck. Oh my fucking.